Are you ready?
For a podcast hosted by George T.
Who the hell are you?
I am the movie geek.
Who are you?
I am the movie geek.
You are such a geek.
Thank you.
And now, on with the show.
It's time!
It's showtime.
It's showtime. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to the new era of the Movie Geek Podcast. My name is George T, and I'm your host for this endeavor. We are now the first episode that will be airing on YouTube, and we've got a lot of things to go over. Last week there was a lot of debacle with the whole setup thing, and we've changed some stuff around, and now we're ready to go. So for those of you who are listening on Spotify and the radio apps, welcome back. I know you guys have been really good about downloading the podcast, and I appreciate it. I've got some great news coming up momentarily that came over this weekend, so I'm excited, really excited. And now we're going to be crossing over into the YouTube side. So my YouTube channel will have both paranormal and movie reviews. So my podcast will be on one day, and the paranormal stuff will be on another day. So if you are interested in both, then I want you to go to YouTube, find my channel, which I will give you all the information afterwards, and click, comment, subscribe, whatever it is. I'm still very new to this, so it is, it's been whirlwind crazy thing for me. Now 15 episodes into this podcast. I mean, I wouldn't have even thought I would have done this many. So I appreciate it. So tell your friends, tell your families, tell everyone that you think would be interested. I don't know, go to town hall and scream it through the rafters, whatever. Anyway, all right, let's get to some things. So I will be reviewing Miller's Girl, that was on Netflix, and my review finally of Fall Guy later on in the broadcast. So without further ado, we got a lot of news coming up. So let's get started, good news for Terminator fans. I'm one huge Terminator fan, although the movies have kind of skewed timelines and whatnot, and probably a series that probably should go away. We've talked ad nauseum about other things that should just kind of go away, but it'll be interesting. But Netflix is coming up with a show for Terminator. It is going to be anime style, so this kind of makes a different little twist for it, and I think it'll be an amazing twist. Anime is so popular now. We saw it with Star Wars doing their animation last year on Disney Plus, and now Terminator is going to do it. I think that would be pretty interesting. Also, we saw X-Men get revived from the cartoon days. I know it wasn't anime style, but it was a cartoon, so there is that genre of bringing other things back. Again, Terminator's kind of run its course over time, timeline skews and whatnot. But I'm looking forward to seeing what their vision for an anime would be. So that is good. Also, HBO Max is going to be introducing an It TV show. It is called Welcome to Derry. They are filming it now. So it'll be out in 2025. So this should be this is going to be a prequel to the It movies with Billy Skarsgård. And he is back as Pennywise, so look for that in 2025. That just got dropped the other day. And yeah, I mean, the original It with Tim Curry was pretty freaky, obviously mind-bending at the time. And then the redos with It and It 2 was pretty good. I was very surprised at how well it was, because I was like, why are we making 2 movies out of it? And it actually worked out pretty well. So I'm glad about that. Also, I've got big news about Boston Comic Con coming up. So out of sheer whim and, just out of a clear shot, I took a chance at getting media credentials so I could interview some guests for this podcast. And as of right now, I've got media credentials. So I'm going to be bringing you a lot of content in the future with the YouTube side. I will also try to get any guests that I can onto the podcast that weekend. It is in 2 weeks on Father's Day weekend. So I'll be there Friday night and Saturday, and then my son George and I are going to Rhode Island Anime Con. He wanted to go to this. He's been really into anime lately, and I said, yeah, sure. So instead of spending 3 days in Boston, I will be spending 2 in Boston and 1 at the Anime Con, but I will have content for you from Boston. And I'm really crossing my fingers here that all my interview requests will go through. But again, just getting media credentials from me is just, it's crazy. Like, I just figured, well, it's a new podcast. I have, a YouTube channel that's mostly all paranormal. So, why would they want to give me media credentials? And I wrote in the email that, I'm a very new podcaster talking about movies and so on. And I just would love an opportunity to interview some guests. They wrote back to me that they would try to work on those requests. So I will be communicating back and forth with them. And again, I know this is going to be way out there, that the few people that I want to interview will actually sit down and interview with me. But I'm hoping that I will be able to interview at least a few people that weekend. I know they're setting up like B-roll stuff for me and everything else. So I'm extremely grateful to Fan Expo in Boston. So now, when Rhode Island Comic Con comes out in November, I will write to them as well and see if I can't get in there and get media credentials as well. But by November, hopefully, this podcast has really picked up steam, and the YouTube side has picked up steam with both the paranormal side and movie side. Again, this has just been crazy. And now, working on the 15th episode, I've got other ones that I've worked on now. I'm kind of rethinking how I did those, and I'm going to change them up a little bit, and I'll get that content out there as well in the coming days and months as well. Wow, this is crazy. As you can see, obviously my backdrop back here. I mean, this movie wall is pretty full. Of course, I got my little Larry Bird basketball right here because I'm a big sports fan. Go Celtics this week. I'm going to a road show for the morning sports show that I listen to on the radio. They're going to the Springfield Basketball Hall of Fame, so I'll be going there as a guest. I mean, not as a guest, but just to see them and meet them and just be hopefully part of the show, because they do have lead guests and stuff, so I will have to write some leads and stuff, but you don't want to hear about that. You want to hear about movies. That's what you're here for. And I am extremely grateful. And obviously the YouTube side now, I will be extremely grateful for anyone who, is from that paranormal side that will come this way, or because YouTube has such great reach, being able to bring in a different audience so that, if they're unable to, watch, they can listen on Spotify, or if they listen, then, they can also watch me on YouTube. So, again, this is all fascinating, and it's been such a whirlwind. It's been absolutely whirlwind. With that being said, let's go over this weekend's box office. So, Garfield movie winds up winning the weekend for this weekend. It has made $14.1 million. It was the number 2 movie last week, so it has jumped to number 1. Number 2 jumped up. It was If at $10.8 million. That was number 3 last week. It is now number 2. Number 1 movie for last week was Furioso. That has dropped from number 1 to number 3, $10.75 million. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes stays strong at number 4 at $8.9 million. And Fall Guy stayed in the 5th spot at $4.2 million. And I'm going to have my review for that soon. It is definitely worth a view. That's all I'm going to say. So, yay on Fall Guy. I was a little tentative on it. It was one of the ones that I wanted to see from the beginning of the year. And it was actually a lot better than I had anticipated. So, and now, this weekend, we've got 2 movies coming out. We've got Bad Boys, Ride or Die, and we have The Watchers. So we're going to watch for the YouTube side, we're going to watch the trailers here, and I'll have my reactions to those. Also, I want to do one other one comparing Watchers and Trapped, which is Battle of the Shyamalan's. M. Night is doing Trapped, and his daughter has got The Watchers. And both of these trailers are really fascinating trailers, but of course we all know that M. Night Shyamalan has twists and turns, and I'll go over that as well. So, and then I will show some more trailers of other things that are coming up in June, like Inside Out 2, and then there are 2 new shows coming out this Tuesday. The Acolyte on Disney Plus, it's a Star Wars show, and for the basketball fans, and I'm actually fascinated about this show on Hulu and FX called Clipped. It is about the Donald Sterling saga that the LA Clippers owner was going through, and it for sports fans, this show is going to be pretty interesting if you don't know the history of it or what went down during that time. So I'm kind of curious about it, and I'll show you all of that very soon. Some exciting trailers there, and we are going to have more trailers in the future. Let's start with my reaction to the Clippers series, Clipped on Hulu. That is going to be quite interesting, again, for those fans who don't know the whole story of what happened to Donald Sterling and the LA Clippers organization. That should be fantastic viewing. Also, The Acolyte. My God, what? It's a prequel way before Phantom Menace even came out. So we're going to get to see a whole new side of things. We're going to get to see how everything kind of came evolved. I'm hoping that this will explore into a deeper world as to maybe the rise of Palpatine in maybe not this season, but maybe in another season or another spinoff. The whole tragic, story of Darth Plagueis from Revenge of the Sith. And that would be something that I would be looking forward to. also looking forward to eventually when Ahsoka Season 2 comes out. And again, Mandalorian, maybe not having a season, but actually a movie. That's something that is definitely going to be explored at some point in the future. So I'm all about Star Wars. I am a big Star Wars fan and always have been. So I'm looking forward to whatever Disney is coming out with. And I know they're pumping out way too much stuff, but I think it's all worth it for me because Star Wars was the first thing that I remember seeing in the theater and just loving so much. Looking forward to The Acolyte, which starts on Tuesday. So that's going to be a really, really good show, I think. So I'm going to cross my fingers, and I'll review that when the season is over. I don't want to do episode reviews. I think it's kind of just not in my wheelhouse. So I'm just going to wait until the whole series is over. I will say, though, I was not a big fan of Andor. I know there might be an Andor Season 2, but that's the only thing that I have not gravitated toward in this whole Disney Plus thing. And yes, I will say it again. I was a fan of the prequels, and I was a fan of the sequels. Not so much Last Jedi, but I'll get into that because I'm going to be doing a whole podcast on Star Wars. So look for that. As you know, I've been prepping saying for weeks about the Marvel series. I will drop a surprise trailer in next week's show. Obviously, it'll be Deadpool and Wolverine, but whatever. Also, another preview that I saw that was pretty interesting. I will have that next week's. But for right now, I have just these trailers that I've showed here. Bad Boys for Ride or Die. Look, the first two, really good. I thought the last movie, Bad Boys for Life, pretty much I thought was the end of it. They had to make another one. Okay. A series of movies that I've enjoyed. I do like Will Smith and I do like Martin Lawrence together. Joey Pants, Joe Pantoliano. I got to meet him at the Rhode Island Comic Con. And he was talking about, his time with The Matrix. And we also talked about Bad Boys because at the time, Bad Boys for Life was going to be heading into theaters the following year. So we had talked about it. And he was a really cool guy. Everybody that I have met along the way has been really, really good. I've heard horror stories about some of the celebrities that other people have seen or visited. I have honestly not had an issue. Circle back a little bit. Carrie Ann Moss. I met her last year at Rhode Island Comic Con, and she had talked about a show that she was working on, and now obviously I know what it is. She was working on the Acolyte series, and she was really cool, and I hope this show does really well. But anyway, Bad Boys, Ride or Die. Unfortunately, I want it to die, but I'm hoping that this will be good. I've been invested with Bad Boys since the first one, and so I hope it does well. But again, carrying on series is just sometimes, for me, you get invested with it. Like Transformers, I got a bunch of those. I've got them all, actually. You get invested in these things, and it just spirals out of control sometimes. And I'm hoping that this one will be all right. It'll be watchable and not a dud. Bad Boys for Life was actually pretty good. So Ride or Die, hopefully it'll be good, but I'm hoping that it'll kind of full circle be done. Again, they've done some amazing work together. Go and do another project. I don't know. Inside Out 2. It looks really good. I just think it's been years since the original one, which was really good. I think if it was made a little bit sooner, may have more appeal, but I could be wrong. With the last two weekend box offices, with Garfield being rebooted and being, number 2 and now number 1. Maybe I'll be wrong. If jumping from 3 to 2, so maybe Inside Out 2 will do pretty well. Kung Fu Panda did actually pretty well. That was another movie that had, kind of been years too late. So I have not seen Kung Fu Panda 4 yet. I will watch it eventually when it streams. But Inside Out 2, looks at Riley's teenage years, and it looks pretty good. My son George is going through a lot of those emotions now as a teenager, being 15 and in high school, although Riley is 13. So, the angst and anxiety and embarrassment, obviously I embarrass him a lot. So I think it'll be interesting. For me, I will see it, but I won't see it right away. Again, because I think it comes a lot later than the original one. If it had been closer to the original one, it might have been more interesting for me. But I will definitely be seeing it, and I will review it when I do. All right. So the other one that I wanted to show is The Watchers and Trapped together. The M. Night Shyamalan battle of, who's going to have a better movie, the father or the daughter. The Watchers trailer, very much like The Village, that I honestly didn't like. It also has a lot of The Strangers vibes. There's a few other movies that it has that vibe for, and I'm just curious to know what the bigger twist is, because if she's anything like her father, the twist will be quite out of left field. Some of them you can see a mile away, like Knock at the Cabin, but Knock at the Cabin was pretty good. M. Night. Signs, I wasn't a big fan of. I mean, I'll go through some of that stuff maybe on another podcast, maybe after The Watchers and Trapped comes out. Trapped comes out in August, and this weekend is The Watchers. So we'll get to see which one makes more money, and then, who has the bragging rights. So The Watchers looks very interesting. So I will be definitely seeing that. And then Trapped. Again, we're talking about M. Night Shyamalan here, who is the king of surprises. And I just feel like by letting us know who the main character is, Josh Hartnett's character is the serial killer in this movie. But there just has to be some kind of big reveal surprise coming, because you just normally don't see that whole thing where, the main character is already outed in the trailer. There's always that little plot line or whatever, but so that's going to be very interesting. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, so with that being said, Miller's Girl, I'm going to review now. It is a 1 thumb up for me. It was very interesting. I want to talk about the movie first, then I will talk about the controversy around it, which to me, I don't see why this is controversial, but again, maybe I'm just, not, let's just say, cynical, I guess. Like, I'm just looking for things. Trolls is what I'm looking for. Trolls. People love to find things wrong with society, and don't get me started, but anyway. So Miller's Girl. Jenna Ortega and Martin Freeman are in this movie as teacher and student. So Jenna Ortega is a freshman in college. She is a literature major, and she is taking class by one of her favorite authors. The author is Martin Freeman's character, and he is a struggling writer. He has published a few books, but has not been a big mainstream draw since his last one bombed. And he's written some bombs after that, so we wound up having to take a teacher's job. So her and her promiscuous best friend are in this class with him, and she has obviously feelings for this teacher because of the stuff that he writes, and he is very aware of the situation, but he decides to take her under his wing as a muse. He is fascinated by the fact that she is so in depth with her writing, and he sees a lot of a younger self in her. The problem is her infatuation for him kind of takes a turn. Her friend wants her to try to seduce him, and he is fascinated, but at the same time he is a married man and he doesn't want to cross that line. But they do go to a poetry reading together to further broaden their muse relationship. Nothing does happen, and so she finds him more attractive, and she's trying very hard to get him to sleep with her, as her friend, her promiscuous friend, is trying to get one of the other teachers to sleep with her. Again, the whole teacher-student relationship, and it's so taboo at times. We see it all the time on the news and everything like that. And I joke sometimes about, hey, I didn't have any of those teachers, in high school. Maybe I had one, but I, again, it's a joke. It's, don't kill me for it. So anyway, when he goes home at night, his wife is a businesswoman. She's literally drunk most of the time. And she's a raving bitch. At times, she's like, maybe you should go back and start writing again. Maybe try to be the writer you were supposed to be, and the guy that I married, and so on. And I was thinking, wow, like, why does he put up with that? And then in some weird fetish fantasy, she gets excited about this, and then she wants to try to sleep with him, and he just kind of, they try, and then something winds up happening, and she goes back to going back to work on her computer, and so on. So he has a writing assignment for Jenna's character. So she writes basically this smut, and in the style of how he wrote some of his smuts, and he winds up getting really infatuated with this. There's a whole scene where he has to leave the house. He goes into his writing shed, and he kind of pleasures himself to the idea of what she was putting onto the paper. When confronted with the idea, he said, "You need to rewrite this. We cannot do this." And she's like, "Why? Why can't we do this?" So, her feelings are hurt, and now she's plotting revenge on him. And she winds up going to the vice principal, dropping off the assignment that he wanted her not to do. And obviously he winds up losing his job. And eventually she winds up winning, and that's how it ends. So for me, it was definitely worth a watch. It is definitely one thumbs up. I did like the movie. The whole thing about student-teacher relationship, I know it's so much taboo, but that's not the reason why there was controversy. So the controversy, and again, stop me if you really have an issue with this, but I'm going to say it anyway. So Martin Freeman's character and Jenna Ortega, obviously age gap, but people were concerned for the age gap of the actual actors themselves. So Martin is in his mid-50s, and obviously Jenna is in her 20s. So people were like, whoa, Why would they put them together? Blah, 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 blah. Really? It's a movie. Okay? We're talking about a taboo situation here. If Jenna had an issue with playing the character, opposite a man, 30 years older, she probably would have not taken the role. But there was no real lovemaking scenes. There was kind of, this tawdry dream when they were reading, he was reading it in his, in his cage and his shed. Jesus Christ, cage. Wow. Okay. But Jenna is at home and, she's writing it. So you're listening to her speak some of the words and him, so there was that interesting dynamic. And then you kind of see them play out the role, but you don't actually see them sleep together. It's kind of the beginning part of the foreplay, and that's about it. So again, why people were upset about this, I have no freaking clue. But Miller's Girl, 1 thumb up for me, absolutely good. And now Fall Guy, I'm going to say right away, 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. And I'll tell you, I went to see this with Ashley, my girlfriend, and we had a blast. It was nonstop comedy. Gosling and Emily Blunt, amazing together on screen. A really, really good back and forth between them. He is a stuntman. At the beginning, he suffers an injury, and we pick up with him a year and a half after his injury. Now he's doing some odds and ends. So the person he was actually stunt manning for is gone missing. So the producer of the film calls him in and says, Emily Blunt's character, I think her name was Jessie. Jessie wants you on the set. She needs, this is her first, foray into directing a movie, and she wants you as her lead stuntman. And he's like, I don't know, we kind of had a falling out, blah, blah, blah. So he decides to take her up on the offer, comes in, and he's like, I want to talk to Jessie. And Jessie's not available because she's doing that. So eventually they wind up running into each other. And he's doing one of the main stunts, and he's trying to change the ideas and stuff. And she's like, who is the man in the lead car, and so on. So she winds up confronting him, and he winds up taking off his helmet, and it's him. And there is a moment of, why are you here? And he's like, oh, you didn't want me here. So they kind of go back and forth, and it's hysterical. So then she's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to use him in this regard. So there's a scene where he's getting set on fire, and an explosion happens, and he winds up flying back into a rock. So she is doing so many takes of this, and it is extremely, extremely funny. And, the whole time she's telling the cast and crew, they're kind of, their fling and what happened between them while reshooting this scene over and over again. And he kind of, and I turned to Ashley and I'm like, why do I feel like this is just going to be like this long drawn out thing where he's just going to keep getting set on fire, and he's going to, I don't know, it had to take like maybe 10, 15 takes, but then they started going back and forth over the microphone, and the crew started realizing that they had history together. So they explore that in a little comedic thing where she jumps in his car and they start talking, and you see it on the preview all the time. So little did we know that his guy that he stuntmaned for the longest time is really gone off the deep end, and he's gotten involved with some really shady characters, and the producer wants him to kind of retrace the man's steps and try to find him so that they can get him back to the set. So he's like, well, why do I have to do this? And she's like, well, you're a stuntman and you should know him like you do. And he's like, well, I haven't been around him in a year and a half after the injury. And she's like, well, start to do whatever you do. Just find him and bring him back. So he winds up getting mixed up into this world where people are out to kill him. And, a lot of good action, but a lot of funny stuff happens along the way until we find out that the man he was stuntmanning for, his main stuntman, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, was the actual guy who set this plan in motion, where he killed a guy accidentally. He was a stunt double that took the place of Ryan Gosling's character, and he, one night at a party was like, hey, do you ever do your own stunts? And he was like, I can do my own stunts. And he winds up back kicking him, and he falls into a table and dies. Hits his head and dies. So Aaron Taylor Johnson's character is trying to pin this on Ryan Gosling, and it is quite interesting how everything kind of evolves. And eventually, Gosling and Blunt come up with the crazy idea to entrap Aaron Taylor Johnson and the producer, and it's very, very funny. And then there is a final scene where after Blunt and Gosling's character reunite as lovers, there's the whole Aaron Taylor Johnson and the producer getting arrested, and we see the cameo by the original Fall Guy, Lee Majors, and his co-star on the show, and it's pretty funny. So it is definitely worth the 2 thumbs up that I'm giving it. It is going to be one that I will be collecting on DVD, and unfortunately Best Buy doesn't carry DVDs anymore, and from what I've read, that a lot of stores are going to get away from physical discs because of the streaming thing or the digital download. My stance on this is DVDs and Blu-rays should not go away. There's still that medium for people like myself who are, yes, I have plenty of streaming services. I have Hulu, I have Disney Plus, Max, Peacock, and Prime. But there's the occasional time where, I might be interested in watching a movie that is not on a streaming service. As you can see, I have a wall of DVDs and movies and shows and special interest things that, if I just wanted to throw in, I want to throw in and watch. I've got the, surround sound, and I just want to have that ability to just sit at home and watch them and not either have to pay for them on a streaming service if they're not free, or wait till they come on TV and there's 100, commercials and whatnot. But anyway, I digress. It is definitely one of the top movies so far for me this year. When I do my year-end review in December, I know I'm already talking about December. I mean, I haven't even got through June yet. I haven't even got through the first Comic-Con yet, which, again, I told you at the beginning of the show, I am so thankful for. I think it's going to be an amazing thing for me, and I'm just hoping I get to interview the top 3 people that I want to interview. So, with that being said, obviously, the Fall Guy, Ricky Stenicki, if you haven't seen it yet on Prime, definitely check it out. It's definitely my number 1 comedy of the year so far. And there's been some other comedies that I've seen, but Ricky Stenicki so far for me. And maybe I'm kind of biased because of John Cena, but actually it is a really fucking hilarious movie. I'm sorry to, from my French. And, it's It's a good movie. You should definitely check it out. And obviously Civil War. I'm telling you right now, if this does not win an Academy Award, I would just absolutely lose it. So, those 3 movies right there, if you haven't checked them out yet, do check them out on your streaming services, or maybe even a Redbox. Although the Redbox near me literally hasn't changed their pictures on the outside, so I don't even know if they rent movies anymore. So again, there's just so much with streaming services. Obviously, Netflix eventually killed Blockbuster and Hollywood Video. Not to say that I was ever bitter about it. I did work for Blockbuster years ago, and I worked not for a corporate store. I worked for a franchise store, and I remember reading about Netflix, and I was like, wow, would this ever really take off? And I think overall, I think it took 3 or 4 times for Netflix to take off and finally kill off the brick and mortar stores. I was obviously a Blockbuster guy because I worked for them for 4 years, and it was one of the best times. I got to rent 2 movies, at a time when I was off the clock. Some days I would just literally sit at home on my days off and watch like 4 movies. I'd rent 2 before my end of my shift, and I would go back in and rent 2 more, and I would just sit around and watch movies. I know that's boring to some people, but that was something that I did on a regular basis. And that kind of freedom for watching DVDs and not so much the streaming services, I think should be looked at a little bit differently. But anyway, that's my little rant on why DVDs and Blu-rays should still be around. But this has been a heck of a start for me. I wasn't really sure I wanted to even do the podcast at the beginning. Now I'm kind of getting comfortable. I was a little nervous about doing the YouTube thing, and I think this is going to be good for for the YouTube side, and to carry this podcast, and for the ones on Spotify, for the people on Spotify, and the other ones, obviously you did not get to see the trailers or hear them, but I think the reviews and so on will help you in the fact that if you want to go see these movies, I would say go see them, or maybe not see them. Eventually we're going to run into trailers that I probably won't even recommend. And I'll talk about that in the next podcast, because I've got some news about Sony's attempt at Marvel movies, which I've said over and over again on multiple podcasts. Sony needs to stop. Just stop. And I'll explain why on the next podcast. So I will be venturing out there to see a few movies for next week, and I think Furiosa is one of them, and probably The Watchers, hopefully this weekend. So, but I'll have more reviews next week. I'll have plenty more news as well. I've got a lot of stuff brewing, and in 2 weeks, going to Boston Comic Con. I cannot wait. I've been to Comic Con. I started in 2016. I'm actually doing a retro, for the Boston Comic Con right now, and I've gone through some of the old pictures and reminiscing about the first time I was there, 2016, and I think it was quite an experience. It wasn't as full as the last 2 years in 2022 and 2023, because obviously we missed the 2 years of COVID. in 2020 and 2021, which was a terrible time in the world. We all know that. And you know what? I'm not even gonna go there. People who know me know my thoughts about the whole thing. But anyway, so we lost 2 years of Comic-Cons, and it was good to get back out there in 2022. Last year was a lot of fun in 2023, and I'm even obviously more excited now because I get to be media credentialed, and I will talk about it more next week. Hoping to get more information as to who I will be able to interview, and trust me, I am so stoked. I actually, if I can get a head count or an idea as to who I'm going to be able to interview, maybe I'll have you guys, through fan mail, through Spotify or the Buzzkill app, Buzzsprout, Buzzsprout app. Holy crap! Be able to do that. Send in a question, or on my socials, GOTED3 if you are not on my YouTube channel, and then my YouTube channel, which is, I don't know why I made this so long, but it is GT3_para_nerdy_dad. So obviously now I'm actually combining the nerdy side with the paranormal side, and I just look forward to a lot of different things. Again, I want to actually shout out, obviously, my son George and my girlfriend Ashley. Without them, I honestly wouldn't have even undertaken any of this with the paranormal side from last year, and doing the podcast. When she was like, you talk a lot about movies and you know so much about movies, why don't you do a podcast? And I was like, I don't even know what a podcast is, but I feel like, this is something that has been truly, just interesting. And I hope that you're continuing to enjoy this, and eventually, for those of you who have not been to my YouTube side, you'll get to see me. Hi. All right. So with that being said, I will stop talking and I will get to work on more stuff for next week and some more stuff for the future. And I hope to see you all at the movies.
See you next time. Bye.
Waiting for you. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Hasta la vista, baby.
That's all, folks.